All right, so there's probably a lot that maybe I don't know, a little bit of the background or context here for all of this. Do you want to set us up a little bit?
Let me just tell America what happened last night, because if you're watching us right now, my guess is you were not watching the late-night NBA West Coast game. During the game, a lot of war of words. There was an exchange between Blake Griffin and Mike D'Antoni. Blake seemed to go out of his way to bump D'Antoni. Later in the game, D'Antoni dropped an F-bomb for all the world to see right on Blake. Blake returned it. Then there is the NBA's crown prince of nepotism, Austin Rivers, in street clothes on the bench. Yap, 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 yap. You also have the added thing, people don't always really like playing with Chris Paul. He's kind of a demanding teammate. So a lot of those former Clippers teammates are glad they're former teammates. So all that leads to ejections near the end of the game. And then Chris Paul, because he was a Clipper, evidently knew about a secret passageway to the back entrance of the Clippers locker room. James Harden, Trevor Ariza, and Gerald Green went to the back entrance. They sent the giant Swiss kid, Clint Capella, to the front entrance to knock on the door. While he's knocking on the door, they're trying to get in through the back entrance. Allegedly, the cops were called because they wanted to go talk to Austin Rivers. Maybe Blake Griffin as well, but Austin Rivers talks a little too much given his accomplishment in the NBA, and everyone knows his daddy literally gave him his contract. So that's the background to what we saw. You had Clint Capella as maybe a diversion, these guys going through a back tunnel, and that's what we got, which is another reason why the NBA is the greatest league in the world. I now defer to my friend.
See, let me ask you this. Do you really think these guys were going in there, they were just going to start they wanted to really sit down and talk to them? Was this going to be a fight? Was it going to be a skirmish? Like,
I don't think they wanted to sit down and talk.
Okay, so you said they wanted to go in there and talk to Rivers and maybe Blake Griffin. Like, this thing could have really turned into something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because the thing, too, is if a guy gets afraid, you try to intimidate a guy's going to have pride, and around your colleagues, like, you might respond a little bit more boldly than you would if you were by yourself. But to me, the NBA and the players, like, there's something going on with the players now. It seems like there's more trash talking, there's more conflict, not only player to player, but player to ref. And a lot of it can be avoided. You know, Blake Griffin, I can understand the beef with Chris Paul, all that, because it's like they decided, the Clippers, they're going to go with Blake Griffin as their future compared to Chris Paul. Let him go to Houston, gave Blake the extension and everything. So there's some other little subplots in this. Chris Paul maybe not happy with some of his teammates. He mentioned they're not being happy with Chris Paul not being happy there. But someone can really get hurt. And at the end of the day, you know, like, you might laugh and joke, but, like, someone can get hurt. And I don't believe in confronting a grown man because he's got too much pride to go away. All right? And something serious can happen. In today's world, too, there's no more fist fights. Like, I mean, a guy pulls out some hardware and something like that.
What was supposed to happen in that locker room?
Listen, I don't think that anyone involved really thought there was going to be a brawl, but we saw it literally.
But why are you going over there, though?
Thank you. Why?
I think to punk Austin Rivers, because Austin Rivers, you're real tough sitting in street clothes on the bench with your daddy a few seats next to you. Let's see how tough you are right now. Let's see. And they brought, it is interesting who they brought with them. Gerald Green is about that business, boss, to paraphrase Marshawn Lynch. Gerald Green will throw. Trevor Ariza might throw. I don't know if Harden's got maybe too much of an image. And Chris Paul, showing leadership on and off the court, knows the back alleys of Staples Center. Within 30 seconds of the game ending, he devised a mission. Clint Capella, you're going to be our decoy. We're going to go this way. So there's a lot of elements to this. Chris Paul also, you mentioned some bad blood between he and the Clippers. He did have a funny quote after the game. They should have gone to their go-to man, Lou Williams, more. That's a shot at Blake Griffin. Like, that's an obvious shot at Blake Griffin.
Yes.
But also the Clippers are a team that is known to be, from coach down, a bunch of whiners to the refs and the other team. And Austin Rivers and Blake are two of the... Blake's been, I want to say, considered, not by me, by other NBA players, a pretend tough guy his whole career. He didn't do much to diminish that reputation when the one fight he's gotten in was with the trainer of the team when Blake broke his hand punching him outside of a restaurant. And then there's Austin, who's always talking. And the Rockets weren't having it last night. I'm not justifying it. I'm just trying to give the background as to what happened.
Listen, we know that. Like, players are going to talk. They're going to be petty. There are going to be issues. There's going to be skirmishes. There are going to be fouls. Players are going to get thrown out of a game. I don't remember ever hearing about a story where a group of players actually went to the opposing team's locker room with for whatever reason, 30 seconds after a game ends, with a plan in place, like, you're going to go in the front, we're going to come in through the back. You don't feel like maybe this has gotten too far now? I mean, if they weren't stopped, I don't know what would have happened.
There have been plenty of, okay, meet me outside the locker room. Now, as far as a plan, like with Chris Paul, but there have been plenty confrontations with players, more so in the NBA than in the NFL. The stadiums are bigger in the NFL. The locker rooms are further away in the NFL. But typically NFL players, too, I think that we understand something bad can happen. I remember my rookie year in Philadelphia, Jerome Brown, God rest his soul, first-round draft pick from the Miami Dolphins. The offensive line, they thought they were going to rookie initiate him on the field, treat him bad on the field. And we had, in Philadelphia then, we had the practice facility. We could drive our cars from the locker room to the practice facility. So our cars were right outside the field. And in them trying to initiate Jerome Brown, he got so frustrated, and they began to fight on the field, he walked off the field and went to his car. And in his car, I was his roommate. He had over 20 guns that he owned. And he was going in the trunk of his car, and I knew at that point, I learned, man, I'm not messing with none of these guys, all right, because these guys are different, and they will hurt you. That was one of several instances where either I saw someone that was going to brandish a weapon. So I'm not trying to go meet with someone, all right, in their locker room to try to confront them, because nothing good comes from it.
And Jenna, you mentioned that you don't remember guys going to locker rooms. NBA guys used to be able to settle this on the court. You used to be able to either deliver a few hard fouls, the iconic picture of Dr. J and Larry Bird, two all-time greats, holding each other by the throat. Like, there used to be real on-court settling of scores. The NBA has gotten rid of that, but it hasn't gotten rid of the testosterone and the machismo.
I think that in that era, too, there was more respect for the players. Now, we did see some violent things happen, but I mean, trash talking is going to always be part of sport. But the overall respect, to me, through the years, has gone down player to player.
So now look at these two teams. Right now, they would meet in, like, the first round or so of the playoffs. What does this mean for these two teams going forward? What do we expect?
So I think this was actually the Clippers, to me, are a barely relevant team for the NBA playoff picture this year. In fact, I think while right now they could be a playoff team, my guess is they sell off some parts. DeAndre Jordan could get traded. Lou Williams could get traded. So I'm going to focus on the Rockets side of this. Man, I think this was a really good moment for them. As far as rallying around Chris Paul, the knock on the Rockets has been they have underachieved in the playoffs. Their star, their MVP, James Harden, has wilted in big moments. The one knock on Chris Paul is that he's never advanced past the second round of the playoffs. And
he gets hurt.
Sure, and he gets hurt later, absolutely. And one of the reasons people have believed that Chris Paul-led teams have not had more success is because by the end of a year, you're sick of him. He is such a micromanager. He is such a little floor general that guys tend to tune him out by the end of seasons. I think this moment, this rallying moment, they play a video for Chris Paul beforehand. He gets an ovation, and by the end of the game, he's out there leading a siege on the Clippers locker room. I think it's actually a positive sign for the Rockets and their chances late in the season.
A couple of things. There's an important date, February 28th. That's when these two teams meet again. So it will be very interesting. I'm sure the eyes of the NBA will be on this game. And based on my source, NBA, he told me Chris Paul and Ariza and them were going over to interview he was going over to interview some of the Clippers to see if they want to be in the next insurance commercial.
The next State Farm commercial.
Yeah, to see if they could ride in the car. Yeah, to see if he could ride in the back seat.
Sense.
Right on the hump.
Now we get it. I didn't think we knew it. And if you just told us that 8 minutes ago,
so Capella was telling him to come out to the front. That's where his audition was.
Leave it to CC to get the real story.
Had they known that, they wouldn't have called the LAPD.
My source.
No, I love your source. I want to meet your source and take your source out for lunch. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.